So for today's practice, you're gonna need a blanket for your knees. And if you have access to yoga blocks or even one yoga block, that's great. If you don't, some tools that you could use, maybe some stacked books, maybe 3 about the same size, let's see, what else have I used? A short, like plank sort of coffee table. If you have a little short coffee table or the legs of a coffee table, you can use that. Or you can just use the floor. The floor works very well as well. The blanket is going to be used for your knees, okay? So I recognize that right now it's springtime where we live, and a lot of you might be out gardening, and obviously gardening takes a toll on our body. So my intention with this is to think about how to stretch those little areas that you might be working as you're gardening. So you can take the blanket underneath your knees for a little bit of extra support. Okay, and you can come to a kneeling position. Now, if kneeling back on your heels is not an option for you, this is where it's really nice to take a block and you can put it widthwise underneath your pelvis. Okay, so you just prop yourself up. Now, again, if this is not an option for you because you've got some knee stuff or some hip stuff going on or even some ankle stuff, then you can just simply sit in a chair. So the first part of this is just about the upper body, okay? And we've done some upper body stuff before in a previous video, so you can check that out. So from here, all you want to do is you want to think about the right earlobe dropping down to the right shoulder. Okay, so this gets into our neck. What I'll do is I'll just turn this way so that you can see me. Okay, so right ear comes down to the right shoulder, and then you can start to extend your left arm back and away from you. And just see how that feels across your neck and down your left arm. Now, if you want to get a little bit more intense, you can bring this left arm back behind your left hip a little bit and see what kind of feeling you can create there. Yeah. So then we bring the left arm back to the center, lift the head up, drop the left ear down to the left shoulder and reach out through the right arm. Again, if you want something a little bit more, you can bring this right arm back behind your right hip. That's not really something that my body is enjoying today, so I'm just going to keep it extended out from the side of my body. And some very big deep breaths here. So my head comes up slowly. I'm going to interlock my fingers and I'm going to press the palms away from my chest, okay? And you want to keep your palms just about chest height or even collarbone height. And then you can start to feel this in your wrists, okay? Pressing out through the base of the palms right into the wrists, trying to straighten your elbows to the best of your ability. And then as you rotate your palms to face back toward your chest, notice what fingers are on top. And you're just going to change the interlock of your fingers, and that might feel super weird, okay? And then rotate your palms and press your palms away from you again. And maybe you're going to feel this or experience this in the opposite wrist of what you just did. So pressing out through the base of the palms, trying to straighten the elbows to the best of your ability, and a couple of nice, slow, steady breaths here. Okay, so from here, we bend the elbows, we rotate the palms back towards the chest, we release the grip of the fingers, let the arms come down to the sides of the body, let the blood rush back to the fingers. Okay, and then from here, we've done this before. You're going to inhale, bring your arms up halfway, and then you're going to cross your right elbow over your left elbow. And you want to try to hook those elbows, keep those elbows nice and connected as you bend your elbows and point your fingers up toward the ceiling. Now, if you can keep your elbows connected, you can play with this, trying to slowly start to bring the backs of the hands a little closer together. If your elbows start to disconnect, then keep your hands farther apart and just experience the stretch across the upper back body with the hands farther apart, okay? And some nice slow, steady breaths here. Maybe the backs of the hands closer together, maybe not. And then the arms come down. Let the blood rush back to the fingers. Inhale the arms up. This time left elbow crosses over right elbow. And again, we want to hook those elbows, starting to bend the elbows and point the fingers up towards the sky. You can, again, see if the elbows will stay connected as you slowly maybe start to bring the backs of the hands closer together. Again, if the elbows disconnect, then just keep your hands farther apart. And a few big deep breaths here. Okay. And then we exhale and we bring the arms to the side of the body, letting the blood rush back to the fingers. So after you do a couple of those nice wrist stretches, shoulder stretches, neck stretches, you can actually start to remove the block out from underneath you, or if you're sitting on a chair, you can start to come down to your yoga mat. And either you're going to take your blocks or those stacked books, or just use the floor, and you're going to bring your feet together and your knees wide apart. And you're just going to start to lower your body closer to the floor, extending your arms out in front of you. Maybe lowering your head to the floor. Now, if your head doesn't find the floor easily, this is where you might want to take a block and support your head so that your neck can relax. Or maybe those stacked books. You can also use a pillow if you want. Okay. So you want to think about the sacrum drawing down towards the tailbone. And again, it's not necessary for your bum to hit your heels. So this is really dependent on your knees and your hip movements. So if your bum is a little farther away from your heels, that's okay as well. All right. So just do your best to sort of sink your bum as close to your heels as you can. Now, once you experience the pose with the forehead down and the arms on the floor, your arms are straight here, your elbows lift and your forearms lift. What would it feel like if you then took a block or your books with your right hand on top of that support, your left hand still on the floor? So you might experience something a little bit more intense in the right shoulder. Now, if you don't have a block or books, then all you're going to do is you're going to lift up onto your fingertips, okay? So you kind of claw the floor with your fingertips. So the elbow lifts quite high and the forearm and the wrist lift quite high while the left palm is still on the mat. And just experience the difference from the right shoulder and the left shoulder. So as you come down, the elbow bends, you drop your palm, or you move the block off the side of the mat, and then you just take the block to the other side. So you support with your left hand, or you come up onto your fingers on the floor, and then just start to experience what that might feel like in the left shoulder versus the right shoulder. And some big breaths here. And then inhale, the head comes up. You can move your block, okay? And then inhale into a tabletop pose. So as you can see, I've still got my blanket underneath my knees if you need that support. Hands are on the floor, fingers are spread nice and wide. Now the index fingers are parallel to one another. And from here, all you're going to do is you're going to start to extend your right leg back behind you. You're going to keep your toes on the mat. Now, the right heel is never going to hit the floor, but you want to try to push your right heel down, maybe feeling a gentle calf stretch. Actively pressing your palms into the floor, and then exhale and bring that right knee back to a tabletop position. And then just change sides. So left foot, left leg extends back. You can keep your left toes on the mat, and you just want to push your left heel down towards the floor. It's never going to touch, but just that action of a nice long left leg. We start to get into the calf muscle a little bit. And then exhale and bring that left knee back, okay? So then from here, you're gonna drop down to your elbows. And you wanna start to do the same thing. So you extend your right leg back. You can keep your right foot on the mat. Okay, if you want something a little bit more intense, you can lift the right leg right up off the floor. And then exhale, bring the foot down, bring the knee in, and extend the left leg. Left foot can stay on the floor, or if you want something a little bit more, you can lift the left leg. And you're not trying to lift it too high where you're dumping into your lower back. You want to keep pulling up on your rib cage, and you want to try to do your best to feel as though the leg is parallel to the yoga mat. And then bring that left leg down. Okay, so now from here, we want to sink back into this resting pose. So feet come together, knees come wide apart. Forehead lowers to the mat. And from here, you're going to walk both hands over to the left side of your yoga mat. Maybe the right hand can come on top of the left hand, but you want to draw this right armpit down toward the floor so you can feel a bit of a stretch up the right rib cage and into the right armpit. Nice big breaths. And then we start to exhale. We walk over to the right side of the mat. Maybe the left hand comes on top of the right hand, and the left shoulder blade rolls down toward the floor, or the left armpit rolls down toward the floor. And then inhale and coming back. Okay. And so walking your hands towards your knees, you can bring your knees back together. Again, be cautious if you have some knee stuff going on. All you're going to start to do is you're going to start to lean back. Now, if there's a bit of shoulder discomfort, you can play around with the position of the hands. So the fingers can point away from you, or you can point the right fingers to the right and the left fingers to the left, because eventually you're going to bring both hands behind you, okay? So I'm going to point my fingers back away from me, and I'm just going to start to walk my arms back. So I get a little bit of a stretch across my chest muscles and collarbones. I'm going to actively push my hands into the floor, and I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades together and lift my heart up toward the sky. And then from here, the tops of my feet press down, and I'm going to lift my pelvis up. A few nice slow breaths. And then exhale, the pelvis comes down. You can bend your elbows and you can walk your hands back toward your feet. So one last little thing, you can start to slither out onto your belly. You can remove the blanket if you don't want it to be there anymore, because it can kind of get in the way. So as you come onto your belly, your hands can come underneath your chin or underneath your forehead. I'm going to keep my head up so that I can keep talking and you can see what I'm doing. So if your chin's down, stay down. If your head's down, stay down. But what you're going to do is you're going to bend your right knee and bring your right heel toward your bum. Now, maybe this is enough for you, okay? So maybe you feel something already in your quad muscle. I'm going to challenge you a little bit and just ask you to see if you can push your right hip down into the floor, right? So really root it and ground it and see if that lengthens through your quad muscle a little bit more. Now, if you can, perhaps you can reach around and grab the right foot, okay? Now, if it's not accessible to you, don't try to shimmy or twist or grab it in a way that isn't coming naturally. Just simply reach back to the point of your own range of motion and work from that space and place, because you're getting a shoulder opener and you're getting a quad opener here already. Okay, so a few big breaths, and then extend the right leg down to the mat, and then bend your left knee. Perhaps it's going to feel different from one side to the other. So maybe you can play around and grab that left foot. And again, if it's not accessible, you just hold here and you get that shoulder opener and you get that left quad opener. Or you can go ahead and you can grab that foot and hold on. So a few big breaths. And then just simply let go. And coming back to this nice laying down position. So I'm going to push myself up, and then I'm going to get on with my day. And that's your practice. So you get a really nice shoulder opener, hip opener, back body opener, and then quad opener for all of those gardeners out there who are squatting and digging in the dirt. So I hope that's something that you enjoy for your spring gardening.